is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new stuff from the Michael Schenker Fest. Name of that song is Behind the Smile. It's from the new record called Revelation. And on the line is the guitarist of that project, as well as the icon himself. It is the one and only Michael Schenker. Michael, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Well, Michael, it is always good to speak to you, and it is always great when a release hits my ears that says Michael Schenker on it, whether it's Michael Schenker Fest, Michael Schenker Group, Michael Schenker Solo, a UFO record, whatever it would be, man. So great times once again, man.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, Michael, obviously you're back with the second Michael Schenker Fest record, and you know, I've got to be honest, Michael, when you first announced Michael Schenker Fest, I thought it was a really cool idea for some shows. You know, I thought it was such a cool idea to have, you know, all the vocalists that you've worked with throughout your career all together and kind of trading vocals. I'll be honest, I didn't think, and I probably am with most metalheads, didn't understand that you were building an actual band with actual music to write. Did you find that people thought it was just going to be shows and it developed into something later, or was it always the idea to write and collaborate on new music together?
No, nobody knew anything. You know, it was everything that happened in the moment on a daily basis. You know, it started off when we were asked with Temple of Rock if we would agree with having Graham Bonnet opening up for us in Japan, and we did, and they asked if we would agree for Graham to sing a song with us, and that's when it clicked. You know, I went like, wait a minute, Michael, you know, you have been performing the most popular music of Michael Schenker, but never with the original vocalist, you know, for the last who knows how many years. And so that's when it clicked, and I knew that it would be far-fetched with doing it with Klaus and with Phil, but I thought I can try it with Barry, Graham, and Robin, and you know, they were just, it was as if they were waiting, you know, for it. And it's like, you know, when it just kind of flew, you know, on a daily basis, basically, when they said yes, and I said, wow, great. And then I sorted out the musicians, and they said yes, and I got a very, you know, good bunch of people, the right people together, the ones that make most sense. I was very happy with the additional out of the blue idea with Steve Mann, and so, you know, and then we went to Sweden Rock, and then it just kind of step by step, very slow. We never pushed anything, very slow, and everybody do what you usually do, and if we have something coming up, we're going to let you know and ask if you're available, and if not, then whatever, and if yes, then please hold these dates, and
sure.
You know, so step by step, and Sweden Rock was the first thing, then we did another here, another there, and then we did this, then we started the first like more than one show on the spot, you know, like a Japan tour, and then when we did this beautiful place in Tokyo, I insisted on filming it, and that was the first time when people started to, you know, seeing it in a proper presentation rather than watching it through iPhone or YouTube. You know what the potential of this was, and myself, you know, when we finished that DVD, I was very happy with the result, and that's when, you know, record deals were coming in, and I didn't actually want any record deal. I wasn't, you know, I was still in that mode of one leg in the, you know, I was in acoustic for 10 years, one leg in the machine, one leg outside.
Right.
But you know, everybody kind of said, come on, Michael, let's do it. And I then realized, look, I mean, I'm dealing with four singers here. Maybe it's time for me to connect again. And plus, I did my middle years of learning, getting everything out of my system, and you know, I understand more about life. I know who I am, and so I said to myself, I don't, you know, and I want to be on stage. I don't have stage fright anymore. And I said to myself, Michael, that's what the middle years were for. They formed you to be able to do this now and do it right, with be back in the machine, but having dealt with all the other stuff that was there in the very beginning that I didn't understand. So I needed the middle years to understand things and learn things. And so I said, eventually, yes, this is a big undertaking. Let's make a deal with a Nuclear Blast and a fantastic bunch of people all around the world. They have, people everywhere, and so I'm very happy I did that. So for the first time, I was back connected to the machine with, they invited me to Germany, to their company, and really impressive. And I loved it when we had the first meeting, like with 10 people, everybody bringing out their books and their writing books and pen,
right.
making notes, and done it professionally, which I haven't had experience for such a long time. So it was really nice. And then, we did a little longer tour and a little longer tour than. And then, of course, we had a record deal, and I said, like, well, what about Michael Schenker Fest in the studio? And then, that became a Resurrection and a complete different album cover than what I had in mind was something completely different, but that's what we ended up with. And so, and we did a world tour, and then, festivals, and, very fast, actually climbing upwards, and ended up in the charts all over the world, and then then we had already confirmed after the last tour, the last gig was in England of the world tour for Resurrection, but we had confirmed the second leg of the Resurrection tour in America,
right.
But which was supposed to be it was in April in 2019. The first one was in 2018, but there was like the last gig in the UK was somewhere in September, and then the second leg was April 2019. That's like 6-7 months, in between, or 8 months even.
Right.
And I said to myself, I'm not going to sit around and wait, just sit around and do nothing.
Right.
It's not happening, not at my age. And so I went straight back to work and wrote songs, and called up Nuclear Blast. Said, like, I want to, start now while I have this window. It would be waste that much of a time to just sit around. And so, go ahead. And so I started writing, and and we did our usual thing, like we did with Resurrection. This time I wanted to have 3 songs, with 4 songs actually, with everybody singing, because I actually like, how Warrior turned out and Last Supper, and it must be a lot of fun for the people, for the fans, to guess who is singing, and
right.
Even I have fun doing that, and so, but we ended up with 3 this time, and but we had a surprise guest singer on the album, and so that added another dimension to it, and so everything. Really, we completed everything. Ted McKenna died as we were recording, our drummer, and we had to, I had a lot of ideas of guest musicians and all that kind of stuff, but we had to forget about that because it's very time consuming, and
Sure.
we had to focus on a drummer who was able to play, a 2.5-hour set,
Right.
and 13 songs on the album. That's 42 songs or 45 songs altogether in a period of 3 months,
Right.
And so we ended up with 2 drummers, Simon Phillips, who is the original drummer of Michael Schenker group, and he was not available for touring anyway, so he did 10 songs on the album. Bodo Schopf, who is an ex-Macaulay Schenker, he is a family member, and he's a really great drummer too. And he did 3 songs, and then I took Bodo with me here to England every time we had a spare minute, and we rehearsed the heck out of the set, the 2.5-hour set, 32 songs, and we managed to get everything done by the 30th. We had our listening party with international press, and one guy said, when I listen to Resurrection, it makes me happy. When I listen to Revelation, I want to party,
Right.
That was kind of an interesting way of describing how he feels between the two albums.
Sure. No, it definitely, there definitely is a difference. And, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Revelation, if nothing else, it sounds like you personally got a little bit more experimental than you were on Resurrection. It seems like you took some more chances on, not necessarily chances. I mean, it's you and you're always creative, but you definitely did some stuff that you haven't done before on several of the songs. Was that on purpose, or are you just in one of those creative places where you have a lot of ideas?
Well, the thing is, I always develop. I never stop developing.
Right.
And so as I go, my life is a journey, a musical journey. I never stop developing. I mean, there's so much stuff out there people don't even know about. Somebody told me 60 or 70 albums. Sometimes I made 3 albums a year. That's how much, stuff I had within myself that I needed to get out of my system. That's what I did in my middle years. That's why I, stopped performing with Scorpions, UFO, didn't join Ozzy. And I said to myself, I know what fame is like. I don't need it. I'm an artist, and I want to experiment. I want to get all. I was overflowing with creativity.
Right.
Those guys would have never made any money with me, and because it was all everything but commercial. And so,
Right.
and I always develop, and I'm an artist, and so every time a year goes by, I kind of develop something.
Sure. Do you think that, and obviously with Michael Schenker Fest and having multiple singers in the band, do you think that you've become more accepting or more willing to listen to ideas than you were in the past? Because obviously the reason there are these 4 singers is because you changed out singers with MSG, and now you're able to work with all of them, and that's unusual. It's unusual for a guy that's gone through several musicians to be able to invite them all back and have them work with you in a collaboration for more than just a song or two.
Yeah, but it's more like this, it's I have done Michael Schenker music since I was 17. That's when I stopped listening to other guitarists and stopped listening to music. And my whole focus has been for almost a half a century now, pure self-expression. And that's what this guy is already doing that. This guy is already doing that. Why should I do the same? I want to express something that is within myself that nobody knows. And if I make that choice to let something out, we are all individuals. We're all unique. So I realized when I was very young, 17 years old, started that while I was 15 already, more or less. That was the beginning of it. And I knew that there is something unique within ourselves that nobody else knows about, unless we make the choice to let that out. And I did that. I did that over and over and over and over until until I realized that I had developed my own, my own style. And that's what the people in the 80s, when my brother called me up, "Hey, Michael, they're all playing your guitar style." I said, "What? You must be joking." But that's what they liked about my guitar as well, that they never heard that before. And of course, they couldn't have heard it before because it was a pure self-expression. And so, I have kept going like that with UFO, Scorpions, everybody. I never changed that because that's what my passion is. Somebody asked me, like, what do you want to be remembered as? And I said, a spirit on a mission, spreading the joy of music from the place of pure self-expression. And that's what I do. And so I actually put the blueprint together. I'm the architect of the design of the blueprint of Resurrection, of every even Temple of Rock, etc., etc.
Sure.
And I get this ready here at home, the old-fashioned way with cassette recorder. And when I have 12, in this case we was 13 songs together, I go to Michael Foss's studio, and he has no clue what's going to come up. I say, "Okay, Michael, don't look at me play guitar. Look to the front, focus on the music," because sometimes he gets tempted of watching how I play. And I said, "This is not a guitar lesson. This is making a record." That was in the very beginning, like 10 years ago, like 9 years ago. But now we have our way of doing it. And so, I tell him the time. You put the click track on, 125. The click is on. I start playing and play and play. And while I'm doing this, Michael is observing and he's writing lyrics. He's singing to it inside himself and stuff like that. That's how we created Warrior. The next morning he says, Michael, look at what I did. I said, what? And he played me the vocals, the melodies and the lyrics to Warrior. I went like, this is amazing, so that's what he does. He writes lyrics and melodies to every song, just in case it's being needed, because while I'm putting down my material, he has really nothing other to do than, observing what I put out there and immediately be creative and think of something that may be, attractive later on if somebody gets stuck or so.
Sure.
And that's what we do. And then I put down electric bass, electronic drums, so that people know where the journey goes. Is it a fast song, a mid-tempo song, and then basically, that's the skeleton and or the blueprint. We know where the windows go, where the doors goes, the patios and everything else, the garage, and then we send it out to the singers, and then they come up with their own lyrics, with their own melodies, and then the musicians, they put their personalities on it. So we all together, after the basic structure of the house is understood and is being built, then we start getting into details and start coloring and make it look beautiful.
Sure. So, and just because I'm a little unclear on this, so do the singers each get like the songs and they write all their own lyrics and then you pick who sings what part, or do they?
No. Well, first of all, 4 songs were supposed to be songs that Michael Voss were going to be the one to write the melodies and the vocals, because you cannot have all vocalists together write one song. It's impossible. And so I said, Michael, I want 4 songs this time with all singers singing. So you do those 4 songs. You pick the 4 songs, or we decide which 4 songs it's going to be, and then we send out the rest of the stuff, and then everybody. Doogie picked the first 2 songs, and so I knew he was behind that, and so the next one was Robin. He picked 1 song first, and then Graham came, picked 2 songs, and then Gary picked a couple of songs, and then. At the end of the day, everybody actually had picked their songs and were happy with their choice, and then they started working on it. And then, of course, we are all they're coming up with ideas, and then we listen to it, and we keep what we like, and we maybe rearrange things that come up with other ideas, maybe, or we just pick the best ideas that are being presented, and then once we all agree that this could be and should be the structure of the song with the melody and this and that and that, nobody is messing around with lyrics or anything. They need to write their own lyrics, but we all decide, like Doogie, for instance, he goes, I've got 3 ideas for this song. Oh, okay, let's sing it.
Right.
And then we decide on which one we prefer, and then he gets, and then they get down to business and complete everything, and then of course the performance, and then making sure everything is perfect at the end then.
Sure. Michael, it's interesting hearing you describe this, just because your reputation is that you're a control freak, as far as the studio, and yet here you are, you're literally sharing the entire creation process with, a larger band than probably anybody. And it really is a testament to how creative you actually are to kind of let go of something like this, even though it has your name on it.
Oh yeah, but I've never been involved in in lyrics or
Sure.
I've always let the singer sing lyrics and make their own melodies. The whole point is what people didn't understand they didn't understand who I was. Because I just said to you that when I was 17, I stopped listening to music and I stopped copying other guitarists because my vision was pure self-expression. So how can you do pure self-expression, but then you have everybody messing around with, and because I'm staying away from it all, and the others are bringing it all in. I don't want the trend to be brought into my house. I need to put a blueprint together that has the Michael Schenker structure. And that's it. I have a vision of how I want an album to be done. And that's what I do. But I let everybody be themselves when it comes down to, to making a house that is, the structure is there, but you don't have any details yet on it. And so I include myself in the coloring, the personality of the bass playing, the personality of the drums, and the personality and the coloring of the keyboard player, etc., etc. They all make their contribution. But when people say that I'm a control freak, what it was, I was guarding myself from being poised by trend or outside influences. So I had to be very strict. I have done this for half a century. You have to be very disciplined, and you have to, I got offers from Ozzy Osbourne and from all these different people. I got tempted to get thrown out of my direction. But in the end, sometimes I was tempted, but in the end, I stayed true to myself. And there's a saying, if you stay true to yourself, more will be added onto you. Everything else will be added onto you and more. And exactly that is what happened. I followed through. I never sold out, and the results are incredible because, if I would have gone with Ozzy, for instance, maybe I would have had a lot of icing, but no cake. And because taking care of my middle years and staying true to my vision, I have completed what my heart wanted to complete, and the reward is fulfillment. And I would not have that. I have a cake because I stay true to myself, and I get now a lot of icing which I can put on the cake. So if I would have gone with Ozzy or whoever, the Purple, who asked me, I would have maybe just only had a lot of icing but no cake, or I can call it a two-dimensional life instead of I have created a three-dimensional life. I know who I was in the beginning now. I learned about life. I know more about life, and I got rid of all of these experiments that were bubbling inside me, which I couldn't have done with people like Ozzy, and because we wouldn't have made them any money. And so they should all be happy I didn't join.
Well, I don't know that you wouldn't have made them any money, but you definitely would have made some vastly different music with them, because I don't think that you would ever be pushed into a box on how to play. I just don't think that's in your makeup.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. It could have been, you never know. I mean, you only have one life, so people don't really like to experiment on that level, Number one priority usually is make money, become famous, and so, that you don't really have. And because I had tasted fame enough, with UFO Strangers in the Night, and that was basically, we made it to the top in 6 years, and then I was, I understood it was time for me to move on and carry on doing what I'm doing, because I knew they were chasing that that world that I wasn't really interested in, because by that time I understood what fame was, and I'm grateful that I was able to experience, because many people, they never really experience it until much later in life, and when they experience it, they might think, shit, it's not what I thought it was.
Right.
But I got very early in life a taste of it, and I was very quickly able to make the choice that I don't need that, and I would rather be an artist and do that. So you're right. If I would have been, as an artist, joined with Ozzy Osbourne, who knows what would have happened, But I don't think it's that I was not made for the machine in my middle years,
Right.
because how I started off is like a kid in a sandbox. I had no expectation. I had no competition. I was not chasing fame, money, or anything. I was just having fun with a single string, and that is what I did. And I just developed my guitar playing from, Lonesome Crow to Phenomenon to every year I made another album, and I heard when I listened and compared it how I grew another year and very fast. And so, although by the time we got to Strangers in the Night, I felt like that was the first chapter of my life.
Right.
And let's go into the arena. And then I wrote a song called Into the Arena, the
Right.
Battlefield, which was life itself. I've got two tattoos on my back. One says "Born to be free," "Born to overcome," and the other one says "Born to be free." And then the first song I ever wrote was called "In Search of Peace of Mind." So you put three things together, you know who I am.
Right, very true. Well, Michael, people can know who you are today if they pick up the new release, Revelation. It is the Michael Schenker Fest. And Michael, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track from the record and maybe tell us a quick story about it. So what song would you like us to play to end this interview?
Oh, the tough one. I like Rocksteady.
Okay.
Because we are all together singing and having fun with it. It's a song that almost didn't make it on the record, which I almost had Ron Wood and Mick Jagger be guests on the which I had to scrap because it reminded me a little bit of the Stones at some point. But that song was almost kicked out because there was too much stuff in there that was not good. And I worked on it and turned it around and added things to it, and eventually it became a really, really fun song. And so, yeah, and since this is the one that was the first single, might as well go with that, and
Sure.
and that was the story.
All right.
Almost, if we had carried on with the guest idea, my son Taro, he lives in Barcelona, and Ron Wood is a fan of mine, and he introduced to me 10 minutes before the gig in Hammersmith in 81 or when it was, or 83, to his whole family, 10 minutes before I go on stage. So anyway, I said to Taro, and then he told everybody, he's a Michael Schenker fan, and then he lives in Barcelona, so does my son. I said to Taro, here, before Ted died, why don't you knock on Ron Wood's door and ask him if we have something here that's really suitable for him, and tell him to bring Mick Jagger with him. but then Ted died, and then we had to leave the whole guest
Right.
situation because it's too much work in that little space that we had. And and that was the story. I thought it was quite a good story.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Well, let's check it out right now. It is Rocksteady. It is Michael Schenker Fest right here on your Classic Metal Show.